All right, welcome to Three Count Commentaries. This is your host, MongoSlade. Today we're going to talk about SmackDown, Roman Reigns versus Daniel Bryan. So this was a very intense match, and they built it perfectly. So we start with Daniel Bryan, who basically says that all he's ever wanted was a fair fight. He's always wanted that one-on-one match with Roman, and now he's going to get it. He's going to defeat Roman Reigns, and once he does, he's going to defend the title against Cesaro at WrestleMania Backlash. He's already made up his mind. Later, Heyman cuts a fantastic promo on Daniel Bryan, basically saying that all of these great things about Daniel Bryan. Was he the ultimate underdog? Did he set what he called it, the PE leagues on fire with his passion? Did he pull himself up to the ultimate success of being the main event of WrestleMania? It's like, yes, yes, yes. Will he defeat Roman Reigns? No. Like, it was really powerful. And throughout the night, there was Booker T, and The Miz and Kofi and Xavier Woods and all these people talking about whether they think Roman's going to win or whether they think Daniel Bryan's going to win. And they give their reasons. For instance, Baron Corbin, who really didn't care who won, but said that there's a positive to Roman winning, is that we get rid of Daniel Bryan. Or you'll have The Miz, and he says that, I think Roman's going to win, because Daniel Bryan just don't have it. Or Xavier Woods, who says, I think Daniel Bryan's going to win because he knows how to work, or, nobody works harder than he is, and Roman's always had things handed to him. And you got Kofi, who's like, oh man, Roman's at the top of his game, and he got Jey Uso, I don't know. So it felt like a big fight was on the horizon, and it just felt like it was going to be major. And then, it started. And of course, we get Roman's new theme. So Roman's new theme is an important piece of business for this. This is the end of the Shield theme officially, even though Roman's thing was kind of a two-nod, twist to the Shield theme. The Shield theme is now gone. It's not gone completely because there's still elements of the Shield theme in Roman's new song, but it sounds a little bit more, I want to say, superhero-y, but it's also it's a little too much. I do prefer the old one, maybe because of familiarity. I was just more familiar with it, but I did enjoy the new theme. I enjoyed, seeing people's reactions to it, because a lot of people were like, "Oh, I like this, and some people were just kind of like, "Eh," but I think most people liked it, and I liked it too. I just, maybe I'm a sucker for the old Shield theme because it's a lot more harder edged, and this one was kind of a little bit lighter, but it also had a little bit. It was a little bit more dangerous, had a little bit more of a fantasy tip to it. It made him feel more like a boss from a video game, you know. So that's fine. That's fine. I'm not gonna shit on it. I don't think it's terrible. I just I'm a stickler for familiarity and things that I already liked. So the match. They started this match at 9:20. That means they started the match with 40 minutes remaining. Now I knew they wasn't gonna work the whole 40 minutes. I wasn't. I'm not that gullible. But I was like, there is something up with you ending the show so early. With the main event, there's only 4 matches on the entire show. So Roman and Bryan, they proceed to have a masterful match with Daniel Bryan working the right arm, kicking him in the right arm for the Superman punch, and they're building to Daniel Bryan saying that he made Roman once, he's going to make him tap out again. Roman's like, I never tapped out in the first place, but, there's always that in the back of the mind that, could it be, Daniel Bryan's lucky day? And there was some kicking out of some finishers. Roman got his finisher kicked out of, and Daniel Bryan, he didn't kick out of Daniel's finish, but he put his leg on the ropes. So there was some, some finish exchanges going on. So, but I did really like the build for the finish. And the build for the finish was simply Roman couldn't really lock in the guillotine with his right arm because, Daniel Bryan had been working that arm. And he had been, put him in the label lock a bunch of times. So his shoulders and stuff is a little weak. And so Roman, even in one particular point in time, Daniel Bryan even countered the guillotine like some regular wrestling jiu-jitsu kind of stuff. He countered it. So I was like, oh, this is good stuff here. And the finish, I love the finish. The finish came with Daniel Bryan getting choked out with the left arm in the guillotine. He just simply could not escape. And the match was ended by referee stoppage. So Daniel didn't tap out, but he was choked out. Roman Reigns was dominant in that case. Roman wins. Uh, Man, completely expected, of course. Nobody expected Daniel to win. But man, that was one hell of a performance between those two guys, man. And they have such great chemistry. Um, I am I am floored by it. So let's get through this, and then I'll be able to go through where I think we're going from here. So Roman goes outside to get the chair because it's not enough to win. He's got to humiliate. So Cesaro comes running out to the ring. Cesaro just starts blasting into Roman. He's just knocking Roman all over the place. And then here comes Jey Uso. Jey Uso, boom, attacks Cesaro from behind, ties him up in the ropes, put him in a chin lock, and forces Cesaro to watch Roman hit Daniel Bryan with the chair. So it was, and that's kind of how he only hit him once. I would have thought he probably would have hit him more than once, but he only hit him once, but he got him pretty good. And I like this. They're taunting Cesaro now. They're saying, okay, you were out here. This is your guy. I ended his career, and now you're going to watch me beat him with a chair. What are you going to do about it? Nothing. And it beat him fair and square, too. Beat him fair and square. Out wrestled him. So we're doing all the right things here. So Daniel Bryan officially is gone from Friday Night SmackDown. What does this mean? Does this mean that we're gonna Daniel Bryan is done and he's gonna go do other things? Well, Daniel's been talking a lot about for the last several months. He's been talking about this being his last run as a full-time wrestler. This being his he not wanting to wrestle in the WWE and wanting to wrestle other places, and contracts are coming up and all this kind of stuff, and this is going to give him a lot of time to do things. Daniel Bryan's been one of those guys that has been on pretty much every SmackDown for the last several months. So, now we need to, give him a break. He got his spiritual successor in Cesaro, who he's put in position. He's put him in this spot. Cesaro, of course, is going to have to eventually earn this spot on his own. I'm not to say, not to shit on him or anything like that, but it's one thing for you to be presented and put in this position. It's another thing for you to feel like you should be there, But, is this the end? I think, well, it has to be. Now, it can't be, of course, a permanent end because nothing's permanent in wrestling except death, right? Unless you actually literally die. Nothing is permanent in wrestling. People almost always come back from these loser leaves town situations or something like that. I mean, literally, Sonya Deville just came back from a loser leaves SmackDown stipulation, or Charlotte was suspended indefinitely, and that indefinite meant 6 days. So it's entirely. Is it going to be Daniel Bryan's back next week? I mean, that would really fumble the whole, all the emotion that they put into this one match. That would really fumble it if Daniel Bryan's on TV next week. But I think that you could always reintroduce him as a general manager or something like that. Put him back in the general manager role. You can move into a different brand if you really wanted to. I saw some people pitching for Daniel Bryan to go to NXT and have an NXT run. I'm sure that's something he'd probably be thrilled with, but I think that there's other people that he wants to wrestle outside of WWE. Will he take the opportunity to go do it? Maybe. But I don't see, because Daniel Bryan is such a big star. Let's put it like that. I don't see Vince McMahon being okay with him going to work in AEW or even the whole New Japan thing. Now, I think Vince understands that these guys get to a certain age, and Daniel Bryan is almost 40, that, Maybe they've done all they can do in WWE and they want to go do other things. And I think he can appreciate that. And he would be willing to give his blessing for him to go do something else. But, as far as sign a WWE contract and still be working in other places, which is what Daniel Bryan wants to do, that's not going to happen, bro. That is not happening. I don't see anybody, as much as they may love Daniel Bryan, I don't see that being Vince McMahon's thing. I don't see, Daniel Bryan being super supported by WWE and being pushed and being given backstage power and authority and all that kind of stuff. And then he goes and hops over on Dynamite and he's wrestling, to help put over Kenny Omega or whoever the fuck. I just don't see that being something Vince McMahon is going to be interested in. And he shouldn't be. Why should you be funding somebody else's, being built up off of a guy you spent the last 15 years building? It doesn't seem to make much sense to me. Well, maybe not 15 years. It might have been like 10 or 12. But, maybe other promotions. Maybe if it was like, hey, he wants to go wrestle in Ring of Honor, then okay, Ring of Honor is not much of a threat. Who cares? But you don't want to just start loading AEW up with talent. I mean, you're already letting a lot of the older talent go, the Christians and the Big Shows and those type of guys, Samoa Joe and Mickey James. You're already letting a lot of those people go. And, knowing that they're probably not going to help that much. But a guy fresh off of your TV that was just working with Roman Reigns in a match that's probably going to get over 1 million people watching it, I don't know. I don't know if I would do that. I don't know if I would let them, take that kind of equity and spend it in other wrestling promotions, especially if it's going to be on TV. I just don't see how it makes sense to him. It's a bad business decision. Then you also have to worry about it if he gets hurt. So no, I think that if he wants to go wrestle, let him go wrestle. It's just another spot open on the roster. You got other people on the roster who need time, who want time. If Daniel wants to surrender that spot, that's a big spot. That's a pretty big missing space because Daniel Bryan's been very important, especially even before he retired. But even afterwards, he's been very important to that brand, and he's also important to the Total Divas and the Total Bellas and all that kind of stuff. So you have to think about that too. That those are WWE branded events and shows and stuff. So let's say he decides to jump ship to AEW or something. You gonna keep letting him be on Total Bellas, or are we gonna start talking around him? Because he's married to the girl. It's not like you can delete him out of the show. So what are you gonna do? So that's going to be very difficult. It's going to be a very difficult situation, and he kind of figures he had them over a barrel, but it depends on what he wants to do. Does he want to stay in WWE and help future talent go over? The only way he's going to be able to do that is to just take that backstage position and maybe wrestle part-time if he sees somebody that he wants to wrestle part-time. But if he wants to continue wrestling at a full-time basis, which I don't see why he wouldn't, he can still do it. He's not too slow. He's not off his game or anything. He's as good as ever. So if he wants to jump ship and go somewhere else, I say you might have to let him. But then you have to look at your roster and say that's a big piece of SmackDown missing. That's a big piece of SmackDown missing. How do you replace that? Now do you say, oh well, we got Kevin Owens, we got Nakamura, we got some people that are underutilized, and then we can always move somebody over from Raw to fill that spot. You got some band-aids on this gaping wound. But like I said, Daniel Bryan's his influence is not just he's a wrestler on the roster. This is a guy who again has backstage influence. This guy also he works at, he's been doing the Total Divas and Total Bella stuff. He's been, plastered over a lot of your material for like the past 10 years. So I don't see how you could just, it's one thing for it to be John Cena, he's not going anywhere else. That's one thing. But Daniel Bryan, who is basically threatening to jump ship, I don't know what you do, So I don't know. Maybe you talk to Brock and you try to get Brock to come back. But Brock is not going to cover all of the bases that Daniel Bryan was covering. He'll show up and throw somebody around for 2 minutes, but that's about it. you know? So I don't know. But Daniel Bryan taking the loss was the right decision. Roman, ending his career was, of course, the right decision. Now we move on to Roman and Cesaro, which is going to be big, and I do question how it will draw. I do, because Cesaro has been an undercard wrestler for like the last 9 years, and nothing has really changed that changes the perception of him yet. Like there's one thing to go from ringmaster to Stone Cold Steve Austin, and you change your name, you change your appearance, new attitude, new presentation, new theme song, everything. And then you've got Cesaro, who's had the same theme song for a long time now. He hasn't really changed his look. He hasn't really, done anything. I mean, sure, he's got the moves, but again, outside of like Benoit or a guy like that, people don't really, clutch onto workers and doing worker stuff. But they need to do something if they're going to turn Cesaro into a money drawing babyface, which is entirely possible. I'll never say that it can never happen for anybody, because I have no crystal ball. I can't tell you. I can just only say that it's what things are more likely to happen and less likely to happen. And I'm looking at Cesaro right now. You got to talk about a guy who is in the same age bracket as Daniel Bryan, late 30s, mid to late 30s, who's been on the roster since 2011, 2010, 2011. He's been up and down. He's been basically in tags and undercards doing silly, street fight matches with pumpkins and shit like that. He's been doing that shit for 5 or 6 years, maybe even longer than that. He hasn't won a singles title since 2012. So we haven't done anything to really make Cesaro feel or look like a major player. That needs to change. You can't just throw him in a spot and then say, voila, things have changed. It's like, no, that's not how it works. You know, you can't just be like, well, he go here now. He go here in the main event now. It's like, no, you have to change something about him. You have to make it feel like he's next level now. And they haven't done that yet. And I fear that if they don't do, what they're only going to end up doing is putting Cesaro in this match. It's not going to draw, and it's going to really harm. Everybody in the back who is already against them are going to be like, see, we did everything we could. We put him in the ring with Roman. We put him over Seth a bunch of times. He was teamed up with Daniel Bryan, who is actually over and is actually a draw. And when he took over, everything went down. And it's like, yeah, because you didn't put any emphasis on him. The emphasis is on fucking Daniel Bryan. You have to do something to make the guy Cesaro feel special. And one of the things that they need to do is they need to find something about him that makes him, attaches him to the audience. I like the Swiss Superman thing, but go into Superman, go into Cesaro's values. That's the archetype of Superman. Superman is about strength, but it's also about restraint, because that's what strength is. Strength is in restraint, right? Superman can destroy whoever he wants. He chooses not to, and he has specific reasons why he doesn't do things. Cesaro needs to become a man of values. That helps when you're a worker bee. Like a drone, a good hand. Is that if you set values, people will continue to buy into them. People will be like, I know what I'm going to get out of this guy because I know what he stands for and I know who he is. It's the Chris Benoit factor. Like Benoit set the standard. Like, he's never really good at promos, but you knew what you were going to get. Now, the problem was he wasn't a sustainable main event guy. And that's what I see for Cesaro right now, is that he has enough equity because he's got so many years on TV that people know who he is, and they're like, oh, finally this guy's going to get a shot. But what happens? Whether he wins or loses, is he going to be able to maintain it? If he wins, for fuck's sake, if he wins, you'd think he'd be made. But I think it'll try to turn off a lot of people. If we're being honest, I think a lot of people would be like, what the fuck? Cesaro beat Roman? Oh, hell no. Because there's no real change in Cesaro. You have to show me that there is a big change in Cesaro. And because I remember when I was talking to my cousins, right? It was about 2006, and they came over to the crib one time, and they was like, "Edge is the WWE champion." I was like, "Yep, Edge." He's like the tag team guy. I was like, "Yep, Edge." And I was like, he was like, "How the fuck did that happen?" And I was like, "Okay, well, let me tell you the story of how Edge became, went from being tag team guy to being a main event guy. It was a complete character change. You're talking about this guy who was obsessed with being the WWE champion. He was pulling his own hair out. He's making ugly faces every week. He was, feuding with Triple H and feuding with Shawn Michaels and trying to feud with Evolution. And then he started doing the sex and violence, rated R superstar thing. And then they sat down and watched Raw and saw him in that position. And they was like, oh, okay, I see now. I see how he, is in the main event now. His mic skills are better than they used to be. If you haven't seen him since 2000, yeah, you will be surprised that he's in this spot in 2006. And Cesaro is the same guy. Like, if you saw Cesaro 2 years ago, you don't see him in this spot. If you saw Cesaro 8 months ago, you don't see him in this spot. So you have to change something. You have to get in there, get your hands dirty, and literally put together a character for this guy. And it's going to be, they haven't done it yet. They just kind of have presented Cesaro as Cesaro. And you've been doing that for 10 years. And I don't know if it's going to work. I really hope it does because I like him. But I'm trying to think of it from the perspective of the broader society. Does the broader society really know Cesaro that well? And they just know that he's a good worker. And that's not enough. But this match was fantastic. Roman and Daniel Bryan killed. Daniel Bryan's future is up in the air. Cesaro he's on a tightrope right now. If Roman is dedicated to getting him over, it'll probably work, to a degree. But again, in order to be a main event guy, you have to be able to work with everybody. And just because Roman is dedicated to getting Cesaro over, if it's going to work, doesn't mean it's going to work. That's the moment he goes to somebody else. That's why the Seth Rollins thing, if Seth Rollins is, dedicated to getting Cesaro over, it'll help. If Roman is going to dedicate to getting him over, it'll help. But then what happens once he leaves those guys? Like, that's what, Benoit was, Shawn and Triple H were dedicated to putting Benoit over, put him over in singles matches and triple threat matches. But then he left them and started wrestling guys like Kane, and people were like, boo, blah. He sucks. He's not interesting. We're not going to watch this anymore. And that's not what I want. I don't want that for Cesaro. I don't want him to end up in a feud with a guy like Dolph Ziggler. I know it'd probably be Dolph too, by the way, as a Universal Champion. And it feels like a huge mistake was made, because he's not a draw by himself. And I feel like if he's going to be a draw, if he's going to be interesting, he needs to connect with the audience. And when he needs to connect with the audience, he's going to need something. He's going to need a real meaningful character. Not just guy that likes wrestling and guy that's good at wrestling. I do like the idea what they did with The Professional. They kind of was going off of the Golgo 13 movie, where he was just kind of like this really enigmatic James Bond type of guy. I like that. The Jason Statham thing that they were doing, I like that. Maybe they should go back to that, but you're still going to have to put some type of connection with it. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Like this video, share this video, subscribe to the channel. Feel free to donate via the Cash App or via Subscribe Star. And I thank you guys for your time. Let me know what you guys think of Roman Reigns' theme song as well. And what do you think is going on with Daniel Bryan? Just let me know in the comment section below. And I'll talk to you guys later.